Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Seeing as it's been a while and I have so many projects that I work on, I decided what I'm gonna do for this video is kind of like a status update thing where I'm gonna go through all of my projects that I'm only working on this year, because otherwise the list would be a lot longer and this video would be really long. I'm gonna kind of tell you where each project is, what part I'm at, so that when I talk about it in like vlogs and things, you have a better idea of kind of what's going on, because I feel like it can get confusing because I've got so many projects at so many different stages, and most of the projects I have are part of a series. So when I mention one project that I'm on this book, it's kind of like, how did we get there, you know? And majority of this information is only from like today as I'm filming this video, so the numbers here, the positions here, where I'm at with these projects will change over time, as can be expected, hopefully. I figured the first project I talk about in this video should be the one I talk about the most anywhere, and that is my dystopian trilogy. Yes, I made a graphic for it. It was very quick. I just thought it'd be nice. There are 3 books to it, as you can expect with a trilogy. We've got the first book, which I started writing in September, finished in December of the same year, and that was 53,000 words. Then I wrote the second book, which was, I started in January 2021, finished it in June 2021, and that was 83,000 words. And then I started writing the third book in August of 2021, and I'm currently still working on it in May. And you're probably thinking, oh, you must be at like 200,000 words if you've been working on it that long. No! I'm at almost 47,000 words, which is still a lot of words. It's almost as much as my first book, but it's nowhere near done. I barely just scraped the surface of Act 2. So I still have a lot of work. Thankfully for me, the fun and games bit is coming up soon, and that's going to take like a huge chunk of the book, and I know the fun and games of this book so well, and I'm approaching some big plot points I'm really excited to write, and I'm normally quicker at the big plot points than like the gaps, because basically I say I'm a planner, but in reality I'm more of a plantzer. I outline like the big parts of the book, and even though I try to chapter outline, I never follow it. So what I've learned to do is just outline like the big parts of the book. What has to happen at each beat, what are some big plot events, what has to happen to establish arcs and things like that. And then I rely on myself to fill in the gaps. What do we do between point A and point B? What do we do? And that's usually where I struggle the most. That's usually what takes up big chunks of time, because I have to figure it out. And sometimes if I'm having a good writing session, I can figure these out like that. Sometimes I'll write like a big plot point and then I get stuck for weeks. Back to book 1. I was going to write the second draft a while ago. I did make a video where I started the second draft, I think. If I didn't, I did talk about it in some video. If I have that video, I will link it. If not, I talk about it in one of my videos, so it's somewhere there. I did start it. I did write 20,000 words for it, but it has since been scrapped because I noticed, wow, 20,000 words to notice, but I noticed it is quite hard to rewrite the first book when you haven't finished writing another book in the same series, because then you get confused about what happened in book 1, what happened in book 3, did this happen in book 3 or book 1, am I writing the wrong events for a book? And then I also worry that some of the things that happen in book 1 doesn't carry across, and then I try to make it carry across in book 3 and it just doesn't work out. So I realized the best thing to do, finish book 3, then start rewriting the trilogy. I'm still writing the third book. As I said, I'm at 47,000 words, just hit Act 2, but I know where I'm going, and I do have plans to reread the first and second book of the trilogy this year, so that kind of means I have to hurry up with the third book. But what I find is that once Act 1 is done, Act 2 and 3 are a lot easier. It's like introducing the stories what I struggle with. I think I've talked about it before, but if I don't like the way I start a book, I cannot write the book. the beginning has to be well established for me to continue, and that's been a problem with like a lot of the projects I've been starting, is I can't write them because I can't start them, and it's been really frustrating for me. So because the third book I got Act 1 complete, I got the beginning part complete, I can easily move on, or I say that in theory. My plan is to get this third book done before July Camp NaNoWriMo, but that would mean I have to add like 40k words in a month and a half, and that's never been done before by me, apart from NaNoWriMo, which is easier because I work on only one project really, but I'm not working on just this trilogy. I have other books I work on too, so my workload is kind of split up, and I did try to only work on one book and can like leave the others, but I always find that I can't just stick to one project. I have to keep moving around because I get ideas for different things, and if I get burnt out in one project, sometimes I find creative inspiration in another. So it keeps me writing and it keeps me focused, and I just prefer it. I can't work on one book at a time. I have to work on a bunch at a time. Next we have NPS, or what I call my fantasy series. So this series has 4 books in it. So far, the only book that's been written is the first book. This project is one that when I started it, I was so stuck on. I did manage to do well with NaNoWriMo, but I still really struggled. I went from a 50,000 word goal for Camp Nano, and I basically like halved that because I just couldn't do it. I couldn't get into this project. I just found it really hard. I did manage to finish it. It is currently at 46,000 words. That's the first draft complete, but recently I've been actually looking over this project and thinking I kind of want to get back into it. I have loads of ideas how to fix the first draft. I know what's going to happen in book 2. I know where it's going to start in book 2, how it's going to end. I see book 2 very clearly in my head, even though it's not like properly outlined, but I want to get book 1 fixed before I go into book 2 because there's a lot of things that need to be added in book 1 for book 2, and if I start book 2 without fixing these mistakes, there's going to be I'm going to just create a lot of issues for myself, and there's going to be lots of continuity things, and there's going to be bits that need to be added in that are not added in. So it's just easier if I just fix the problems now instead of adding more work to myself when I'm revising. I'm actually going to be going back to the first book this year, which I'm really excited for. I already started reading through the book. I didn't make any notes yet because otherwise I'm going to get into revising mode, and I have other things I need to worry about right now. The more projects I add on, the longer each of them will take me. So I'm just going to wait until its time comes. I did make a video where I go over my projects for this year and when I work on everything. So if you want to see that, check it out. Book 1 is complete, only first draft. Book 2 is sort of outlined, but not really. Book 3 is sort of outlined, not really. Book 4, not outlined. And I plan to start working on book 1 again at the end of the year. The third project that I'm going to be adding to this video, my status update video, is TLP. This is like a new project. Seeing as I didn't talk about it much, this is kind of like where I'm going to tell you guys where it is. It's currently at 6,000 words. I'm in chapter 3, still act 1. Okay, so this project took a very long time to get to a place that I think is okay for a first chapter. I have like 6 documents of me trying to do this first draft and failing, giving up, scrapping the doc, going to a new one, and I finally figured out what to do. So I am now, obviously as you can tell, chapter 3, it's going well. I know what I'm doing. I'm most excited about act 2 because something really exciting happens in act 2, and also it's got the fun and games, and I love fun and games, but I'm so excited for act 2. Obviously that means I need to finish act 1. And currently I see this project finishing at like around 60,000 words, which is quite a lot of words, and I'm only at 6,000, so I've still got like 10 times the amount to write. But at the same time, I am quite excited for this project. Every time I sit down to write, I easily knock out like 700 words, which might not sound like a lot, but for a project that I struggled so much to start, it is quite good. It is quite good. This is also a standalone, so it's got no other books correlating in it, which does make things easier because I don't have to think, oh, I I can't wrap everything up, I need to leave some plot points, I can wrap things up so I don't have to worry about adding in like a ton of plot points just so that it can carry on. I don't have to worry about like, oh my gosh, when I finish this book, this story isn't actually finished because there's 2 other books. I just think, oh my gosh, I'm done. I just have to do like 6 other drafts. Next we have another project which I didn't really talk about much, but again, it's like a newish project. I think I might have talked about it. Now that I think about it, I think I have talked about it quite a bit. It's FGI. This is another project that gave me trouble. I would start it, I would like the introductory bit to the whole story, and then I would get lost. And I know where I want to go with it, but when I first started the first draft, it felt repetitive. So I stopped because I just couldn't do it. I didn't want to carry on with a story like this because it just gave me a lot of trouble. So I restarted it, and then I stopped and I realized I don't like my outline, so I re-outlined it, and then I started writing it again and I didn't like it. So I gave it some time again. Using my new outline, I completely just stopped looking at the documents and started it off new. Because before, what I do is I kind of like copy and paste the parts I liked, but this time I copied none of it. I would just start it straight from scratch using my outline. I'm currently at 1,000 words with this project, which is not a lot at all, but basically I only just managed to figure out how to get on with the story when April came around. I only gave myself a little bit of time to work on it in March just to see what I could get done. Didn't get much done, but then April is when I started properly working on projects. So I left that one. I do go back to it later this year, which I'm really excited about because I like where the project is going. I like where it's going. This is also one of my standalones, which again, like I said, would make it a little bit easier because once this project is done, I don't have to worry that there's another book following the story. This is like where it begins and where it ends. And this project it did stress me out a little bit when I was outlining because I realized that like what if it's actually a trilogy, because it has the potential to be something bigger. But then with my new outline, I wrapped things up quite well in the end, so it doesn't need another book. It finishes perfectly in the first book. Everything is wrapped up. There are no like well, there are a few like lingering questions, but they're there on purpose and not like big plot things. But that is kind of where that project is. Next we have my HFP trilogy, which I introduced like a year ago, and it is my historical fantasy project. It's a trilogy that I wanted to start working on so many times, but I just never did. So none of the books are written in this project. None of them are like properly outlined. Like I think book 1 had an outline, but I scrapped it because I didn't like where it was leading to with book 2, so I scrapped it. So I do have like loose outlines for all 3 books. So I know what mainly happens in book 1, what mainly happens in book 2, and what mainly happens in book 3, but I don't really know like the details. I don't really know like some of the plot points. I do know the characters, which is I guess a pro of having outlined it before, but I don't know like the plot. And for me, who normally outlines plot first, that is kind of scary, having characters and no plot. I don't really have much to say about this project because it's not being written currently. When do I start working on this project? I will keep referring back to my writer journal because that's where everything is written down. Oh, next month. And if you want to know what it's about, you can watch my project video. I talk about it more there. I introduced it in the 2021 version of that video, so I will link that one instead, but you're more than welcome to watch the 2022 one if you want. Then we have EOOS. This is so far the only contemporary project that I'm talking about here. I started off being like, oh, I know exactly where this is going. I have a good outline for it. Each character is fully developed and I have their arcs figured out and I've got all these details figured out. This project is going to be very easy to write, especially because I wrote contemporary for years before I started like branching out and writing different stuff, so I can write contemporary. I can't write contemporary apparently because this project has been giving me trouble. I've noticed that my standalones are a lot harder to write than my series is. I had a little bit of trouble starting book 1 of my dystopian trilogy. Book 2, I had the first line figured out before I even finished book 1. Book 3, same thing. Had the first line figured out before I even wrote book 2. I don't know what's going on. I can't figure them out. So this project, it took a long time, to the point that I wanted to scrap this project. I didn't want to do it anymore. I thought, maybe someday I'll come back to this project. Maybe not. That's fine. I want to work on different things. But then a funny thing happened. Yesterday I was writing and I thought, I really want to write EOS. And then before I know it, I'm at, let's see, around 2,000 words. Now, before I started writing, I had like 300 of the introduction. So I wrote like 1,700 words for this. And I am kind of stuck now, but I know an easy way to fix it. I know where I'm going from there. So that is my status update video. That is where we are with these projects. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully another video will be out soon. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!